Welcome back once again for another Johnnie Torch live broadcast. Broadcast number 253. Yeah, 253 already. Torch News Roundup number 209 this afternoon. This lovely hot afternoon for I guess you could say late in summer Saturday. The only way to spend your Saturday here with us on the Johnnie Torch live program. Coming to you high atop the fair metropolis below in stately Torch Tower. If you are wondering, yes, I've taken the day off from the flea market convention that I have constructed for myself. I will probably be back at that for at least one more appearance before the summer's over. But it gives me the opportunity to catch up on some news here that's happened in the past week that we haven't fully covered. We're going to take a look at the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer. I'm going to give some thoughts on that again, because last week, if you haven't seen last week's show, was it last week? Gosh, seems like it's been a long time, but when the trailer leaked, we actually had breaking news, and we covered the trailer, the leak of the trailer, so that we got some sort of early observations about the trailer. But now that the trailer has actually been released, I'll be able to give some slightly more concrete view of what has been transpiring in that trailer. Also, we're going to talk about some of the business at hand here. The Shang-Chi review. I'm going to be seeing Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings Tuesday. So hopefully I'll be able to do a show or probably a recorded video on Wednesday giving my thoughts about that. So if you're wondering what I'm going to be saying about Shang-Chi, because it just came out here, at least in the States, don't expect anything until at least Wednesday, because I'll be seeing it Tuesday. Then I got to, get my thoughts together on it, put the review out probably on Wednesday. If you haven't yet, check out my WandaVision review. It's very brief. It's like under 5 minutes, so you can check that out, and won't take too much of your day. What happens is when I do these reviews for the movies, usually I do just like a long form stream where I'll just go into everything for like an hour, depending on the size of the movie, maybe longer. So possibly the Shang-Chi review might be a full on blow by blow of it, depending on how I suppose I feel about it. It's getting great reviews. So, I always walk into a movie with, reasonable expectations. I mean, let's face it, you shouldn't go in expecting it to be the greatest thing since, sliced bread, as they say. But then again, you don't want to have your expectations so low that if it doesn't completely fall on its face, that it was a success. I'm expecting a good movie. I'm expecting it to be pretty good from what I've heard about it. It's a very good origin movie. And you know me, I'm a sucker for origin movies. I think my top 10, I'm thinking pretty much, I would say at least 90% are origin movies. The first Spider-Man, Batman Begins, the original Avengers, if you want to call that an origin movie, I suppose. Captain America, the First Avenger. These are all some of my favorite movies. Of course, also stuff like Donner's Superman. If you want to go back further to some of those things, those are all in my top 10 as well. So, I mean, it's kind of tough to expect that Shang-Chi is going to move some of those films down. Or even if we're just talking MCU films. I mean, there are a lot of great MCU films that The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man, the original. It's just going to be tough. So a lot of people are putting this on their top 5. I doubt that's going to happen in my case, particularly for a character that I know very little about. In a way that works to their advantage, because there's not a huge preconceived idea about the character, seeing as how, basically I just know him from a few Marvel team-up issues from the early 80s and stuff like that. So they can go a little bit off script, and I probably won't know. But, having said that, check out the channel probably on Wednesday for the Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings review. Also, before we get into the business at hand, I also want to refer you to the link in the description below You can check me out on Twitter if you are that brave. You can check out The Adventures of Bullets, Bourbon, Private Eye, and foolish me, I never have the cover ready, and it'll take me like 5 minutes to try to find it and put it up on screen. But the Temptation Eyes issue number 8 is out, and I've been meaning to do a video about that, just where I can talk about it straight on for like a half hour or something. Haven't been able to find time to do anything lately. It's very busy around here, around Torch Tower. And I'm still busily working on issue 9, which is, of course, unfortunately going to be called The Death of Bullets Bourbon. We're going to get into that at a different time. But right now, check out issue number 8, Temptation Eyes, where Bullets is beckoned to the dark side by the lovely and beautiful Veronica. Will he succumb to her charms? Will Carrot Top finally have his defeat of his arch rival, Bullets Bourbon? You'll have to find out when you check out the link in the description below for the issues number 7 and 8 in the Family Jewels arc. We also, I haven't been able to list issue 8 on the website yet, so give me a little time, but also that's all the issues are listed in Indie Planet. I'm sure that issue 8 will be relatively soon. They're not really the quickest to list stuff up there. I haven't checked today, but like 2 days ago when I checked, it wasn't listed yet. So try to be patient, and I'll see if I can get it to you. Of course, like I said on Twitter, the best way if you want to get this issue is to see me at the flea market, which, again, I took today off, but most Saturdays I've been there and will attempt at least one more appearance because, again, with the situation we're in nowadays, it's not really conducive to live appearances. I don't want to get any further in that, but, you know, you have to wear the face garb if you want to get into a con. I refuse to do that, and so I am subjected to going back to the flea markets like I did last year. So hopefully I'll see you there, out there in the open air, and we can share our love of comics. You can find the address for the con, for the flea market, excuse me, on my website and the link in the description below. If you're interested in trying to catch me at one of my appearances before the end of summer 2021. All right, so just briefly, let us look now at the No Way Home trailer. Of course, I'm not going to show the trailer. I suppose I could find a way to try to get it on screen, but I don't want the stream taken down and so forth, so I'll just talk about it randomly while you look at this image. And I remember thinking at the time that it sounded like Norman Osborn telling Strange not to do the spell, which I know made no sense whatsoever. I knew it couldn't be him, but it sounded like him to me. Of course, it was Wong, and Wong is leaving through a portal, apparently to show up in Shang-Chi. I don't think that's a spoiler. I think he's got a cameo with the Abomination. If you've seen the trailer, I hope that that doesn't spoil it for you. But again, I'm kind of taken aback as to why Strange is helping Peter with this. He acts as though he's surprised at some point in the trailer, saying that we tampered with the multiverse and everything's going to hell basically because of it. But at the same time, this is the Sorcerer Supreme. I don't think you can catch him off guard with these things, especially at this point when he's been Doctor Strange. He's been the Sorcerer Supreme for a couple of years now. This is not, I've heard the excuse online, oh, well, you know, Stephen Strange, he was always arrogant. He was always thinking he could, you know, do things that were unconventional that other Sorcerer Supremes wouldn't have dared to do. But I think at this point he's grown. That's the point of a character progressing through a series of movies like this, is you see the character grow. Yeah, obviously, maybe in the first film, in the original Doctor Strange, he was going to do things differently than being an experienced hand at, you know, being Sorcerer Supreme, being a sorcerer. It doesn't seem like he learned anything if this, in fact, is what he does in the film and just sort of willy-nilly decides to help Homeboy by opening Pandora's box, if you will. But again, you know, we're just going by a trailer. It's impossible to know for sure exactly how this is going to play out. There have been people saying that the lizard is in this trailer. I watched it like 3 or 4 times at this point. It's not decipherable if it is the lizard. I mean, it very well could be. You see some kind of like I don't know, some smoke storm or something like that people are identifying as the Sandman. It could be because the way they're putting those scenes in a row like that, of course, starting with the pumpkin bomb, which again, this is the only reason why I'm excited for this film. When I hear the multiverse and they're going to bring back Tobey Maguire, who I am very fond of course, that's my Spider-Man live action. Again, I have nothing against Tom Holland. I'm not a fan of Andrew Garfield, although, you know, time kind of has, you know, made me feel somewhat more appreciative of him. Like I said, I thought The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was actually a step in the right direction. I think, honestly, he gave a pretty good performance in that film. I know a lot of people don't like that film, and it has its flaws to be sure, but I thought the first film, The Amazing Spider-Man, was horrible, and it probably is on my least favorites list. I mean, talking about films that are like well praised and I just don't get it. I mean, so, you know, like Man of Steel and maybe Ang Lee's Hulk. These are films that for some reason have their fans that just go gaga over them, and I don't understand why. Let's see, anything else about the trailer? You know, there's some cool stuff. You see a lot of people saying that the guy that puts the files on the desk, you just see his arms. That's Matt Murdock. That's Charlie Cox. You know, of course, I don't know. I mean, it might not be him, and he might still be in the movie, but I think that's all we're going to get of him. I think it's just going to be a nod showing, well, you know, yeah, we've got Daredevil in the MCU, but I don't know how they're going to tie that in. I don't know if they want to fold the Netflix MCU into the MCU proper. Now, if Charlie Cox is going to be the Daredevil in the MCU, what I'm trying to say is it probably makes more sense for that to happen after the multiverse opens up, and then some things have happened to the timeline or what have you. But it's sort of, that's again opening a Pandora's box, if you will. If you bring Charlie Cox in, then we have to use basically everything from the Netflix MCU, which includes Power Man and Iron Fist, Jessica Jones. That whole storyline has to play out somewhere. And I know a lot of people don't have a problem with that. I'm not a big fan of the Netflix MCU stuff. I thought it was okay, various degrees. You know, I liked some of Iron Fist. I don't know. The Luke Cage was okay. I don't know. In other words, I wouldn't really be too brokenhearted if they did do away with all of it. I think Daredevil had a good cast is what really helped that. I mean, Vincent D'Onofrio was just a picture-perfect Kingpin, and Deborah Ann Wall, of course, Charlie Cox, he was excellent. So I kind of would allow that if it was me, but again, it's not as family friendly. The Netflix MCU stuff was not intended to be family friendly, and it's going to be harder to fold that into the universe, I think, unless they're going to just like wipe the slate clean and just say this is a different Daredevil from that, even though it's the same actor. We'll see. Of course, Alfred Molina looks great here. They did a good job with the anti-aging technology that they're, you know, it's getting better and better, that technology. I mean, this looks like if you told me this was like an outtake from Spider-Man 2, I would have believed you, because it really does look believable at this point. I think it helps also that he's got the glasses, because the problems that usually they have is with the eyes and with the mouth, trying to get them to look accurate. Tom Holland in a bunch of different costumes. Got the Iron Spider costume here. He's in a black costume. I don't know if that's the quote-unquote Spider Monkey costume, but again, it's interesting. It gives pause. I think there was a meme I saw that was really funny that it does, going back to the Doctor Strange stuff, it's like, why is there an issue with Peter that he wants the spell to not take the memories of MJ, Ned, and Aunt May? Now, honestly, he could just tell them. I know it's difficult for him, but I mean, when you're tampering with magic and stuff, again, the MCU Spider-Man is not really the most intelligent. You know what I mean? He's not the sharpest tool in the shed. And again, I think that's why he gets a lot of flack, because a lot of what we like about Peter Parker in the comics is he is pretty intelligent. He's just pretty savvy. He's a little bit of a hothead. He can kind of go off. Again, that's not something we really see in the MCU Spider-Man 2, though. I mean, have you really seen him get too agitated and go off on anybody? No, he's always subservient to the other heroes around him. I think basically this could redeem the character in that respect, though. If everybody's made to forget, including, well, to be honest with you, there's not many people, like, I mean, who else would it be? Happy. Apart from Happy, who is left that really knows his identity? Captain America's gone, the Steve Rogers Cap, Tony Stark, even Black Widow. I mean, he didn't have a good relationship really with any of these characters, and now, chances are nobody really knew his identity anyway, besides perhaps Happy and maybe one or two other characters. And like I said, most of them are gone. So it probably is not going to hurt anything to have him, wipe the memories of all his teammates, so to speak. It also would help to put him back as a loner, which is something that was lost. And I understand, because I was a big proponent of, well, I want to see Spider-Man interact with the rest of the Avengers and this and that. And you can do that very well with a Infinity War and Endgame and stuff like that. But when it comes to just his own solo movies, they sort of pale in comparison, because they haven't been able to really create a good world for Spider-Man first. And that's what should have happened. They should have created a good world for Spider-Man first for himself, then bring him into the MCU at large. Of course, that didn't happen, and it sort of feels more like he's a square peg in a round hole in his own movies. It's like his own movies. Spider-Man, that's the blessing and curse, so to speak, of Spider-Man, is that he doesn't need anybody else. You could really do a Spider-Man universe, as Sony has done and is still trying to do, with just Spider-Man. With just Spider-Man and his villains, and he has probably the best, supporting cast. I'm trying to think of any peers. I mean, maybe Batman. Batman has more sidekicks, though. That's what gives him a good supporting cast. Superman has a good supporting cast. Lois, Jimmy, Perry White, and, you could pull some others from, different areas like Lana Lang and what have you. But Spider-Man really has the strongest supporting cast, and you really don't get a good, strong feeling of his supporting cast in these MCU films. There's no, Harry. There's a terrible version of Flash. Ned shouldn't even be there. MJ is completely changed around. So it's like, you really don't get that. You really don't get that Spider-Man universe in the MCU. And hopefully they can build on it now at some point after this film. Yeah, that's it, I guess. That's about it. So check out our last week video, last live stream. See if you get some more ideas of my thoughts on No Way Home. I always want to call it Far From Home. Now, that was the last one, right? No Way Home. And let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you excited for this film? Like I said, I'm excited only because of the ramifications of what the multiverse is, and we're going to have a lot of Doctor Strange, which I think is sort of an unsung hero in the MCU. He's really done a lot, Benedict Cumberbatch, to make that character really an A-lister, much like some of the other B-listers that, sort of climb the ranks because of good character portrayals. Chadwick Boseman with Black Panther. Maybe even, so I'd go so far as to say Chris Hemsworth with Thor. These guys were B and C listers, and their characters, I mean, and, they really elevated them to being top-notch, I would say. All right, so staying into the Spider-Man world there somewhat, let's take a look at the new Venom 2 Let There Be Carnage poster. I think we talked about the trailer before. I don't know. It's been so long now. But this is the new poster, and we also have the ratings. We got a lot of good news this week. a lot of good news, because if you're used to hearing me come in and drone on and on about comic book movies should be for kids, it should be accessible for kids, you shouldn't have R-rated comic book movies, with maybe one or two exceptions, but keep it accessible to the next generation. They're your bread and butter. They're the ones that are going to make you the money. They're the ones that are going to be dedicated fans down the road. Which is not to say that adults won't be dedicated fans, but you've got to appeal to the next generation if you want this thing to go on. And I've made the comparison many times about Westerns. People say about the Western, oh, the Western went extinct or what have you. It was because the deconstruction in the 60s led to basically the ostracization, is that a word? I don't know, of kids from Westerns in the 70s. You really didn't have kids growing up in my generation wanting to play quote unquote cowboys and Indians, or, you know, whatever Western kind of scenario that was played by the kids previously, because basically that all went by the wayside. By the 70s, it was all adult films. They were all for grown-ups. There was very little Western fare. I mean, you had Little House on the Prairie. I think The Legend of the Lone Ranger came out in 80 or 81, something like that, which didn't do very well. My review of it is doing very well. You can check that out if you want, because it's one of my more popular videos. But really, that's the reason. And if you keep doing this like they're doing, especially over in Warner Brothers in DC, where they're making Joker and Birds of Prey and The Suicide Squad, all R-rated films. At least half the output now from DCEU is all R-rated films for their catalog. It's very disappointing. It's very disheartening that they're not doing enough to appeal to the younger viewer. Now, of course, they've got a few, PG-rated films coming up pretty soon, but I'm happy to announce here that Venom: Let There Be Carnage will be PG-13. I was pretty sure it was going to be, with the first film being PG-13. With Sony they've been hesitant to make any R-rated films in the Spider-Man universe for good reason. Of course, Morbius, I believe, was probably going to be PG-13 as well. Let's see. Let's look at the copy here. The first Venom was originally developed with an R rating in mind, but Sony Pictures ultimately decided to tone down the violence and bring the movie in at PG-13. After the movie's success, the studio would have been foolish to change the formula. There were rumors that the upcoming sequel would be hit with more adult-oriented rating, but it's come to light that the MPA has officially rated Venom: Let There Be Carnage PG-13 for intense sequences of violence and action, some strong language, disturbing material, and suggestive references. Now, again, you can do, I think the last film proved it, you can do the violence, you can do some of this stuff without having to break the boundary of the PG-13. PG-13, the reason why it was created was to basically give you that sort of power boost in the violence. For those of you who may not know the story of the PG-13, it was originally created because of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and Gremlins. Both movies that came out in the mid-'80s that had a little bit more stronger violence than the Motion Picture Association was comfortable with, but it wasn't strong enough to deliver it an R rating. So the idea was to create a new designation that was a stronger PG on steroids, and of course that even was stretched to its boundaries by the 90s, where it was, some PG-13 films are pretty close to R-rated. So again, it's a balancing act where they try to make it reasonably within the proximity of a PG rating. All right, this shouldn't surprise most, though it certainly could be argued that Venom and Carnage are characters that would benefit from an R rating. See, nonsense. I don't believe in that, because you have these characters here that all you need to do in any good adaptation is to suggest the violence. You don't need to see blood splatter and gore and entrails and whatever to get the point across that violence is being committed. That's why the Suicide Squad, it really did alienate a certain segment of the audience that didn't want to see that. And you could see a lot of that in the reviews, that a lot of people were sort of turned off by having to see everything. If the above content listing is any indication, director Andy Serkis and company plan on pushing the boundaries of the more family-friendly rating. As the title suggests, the Sony Picture sequel will see Venom go fang to fang with his arch nemesis from the comics, Carnage. The first movie proved to be highly divisive, but many fans are likely to give Let There Be Carnage a chance just to witness the long-awaited battle on the big screen. Yeah, this is really good. I mean, Woody Harrelson, you got to admit, I mean, the guy is born to play this role. I mean, I just can't wait to see what he does with this role. This is going to be a hoot if Woody Harrelson's involvement is any indication. And Tom Hardy, I just love the way they managed to get that dual relationship with him and Venom. It's very interesting because I know there are a lot of fans that are purists, and I'm a purist myself in most cases, but a lot of purists are saying, well, you can't do Venom without Spider-Man. You can't. Honestly, I was very pleased with the original Venom movie. I think if you had to do Venom without Spider-Man, you did it the best way possible with that film. So, you know, one would argue this might not be the most accurate Venom portrayal, but to be honest with you, if they started it this way and, you know, it was palatable, just keep going. You know what I mean? That's the way I feel about it. Just keep going. They did a pretty good job with the first one. I want to see more. Can't go wrong with Carnage. Again, like I said, Woody Harrelson, perfectly cast. Just let this baby go as long as it can. Now, I don't know what they can do after this, because I think for a Venom 3, you got to bring in Spider-Man. You really don't have too much left. I mean, I know there are a ton of symbiotes in the comics, but I'm trying to think. I mean, I think they used pretty much all the known ones at this point. And, you know, that's kind of where you get that, you know, Venom 3 versus a symbiote again. That's kind of like why, you know, they get tired of like Iron Man fighting an armored villain or the Flash fighting a speedster. They're going to have to mix it up with something different at that point, I think, for the third film. But everybody's looking forward to Carnage. See, Michelle Williams and Reed Scott are set to reprise their roles from Venom, and they'll be joined by Naomi Harris as the villainous Shriek and Stephen Graham as an unnamed copper. He can be glimpsed in the trailer reading the Daily Bugle. Sean Delaney, Lawrence Spellman, and Larry Olboamio are also on board in undisclosed roles. So, yeah, looking forward to this one in October. It should be a blast. Hopefully it is. Let me know what you think about Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage. Are you looking forward to it? The final, or I should say finally seeing the showdown between Venom and Carnage. Very exciting. All right, so next up we have a little news about Shazam, Fury of the Gods. Let's see. We're expecting to get a first look at some footage, most likely a behind-the-scenes teaser from Shazam, Fury of the Gods next month at DC Fandom. And director David F. Sandberg has now officially announced that production on the DC Comics sequel has wrapped. Reports did the rounds last week that filming has been completed, but they were a little premature as Sandberg clearly still had a few shots to get in the can. The filmmakers shared a first look at the Shazam family and their redesigned costumes back in June. We're hoping to have a little more to show us once shooting has wrapped. For now, we'll have to make do with a shot of a clapboard for the movie's logo. The Shazam sequel will see the return of Zachary Levi as the titular superhero, along with Asher Angel as Billy Batson, Jack Dylan Grazer as Freddie Freeman, Megan Good as Darla, Ross Butler as Eugene, Grace Fulton as Mary, DJ Cotrona as Pietro, and Adam Brody as the powered-up Freddy. They'll be joined by Rachel Ziegler, Helen Mirren, and Lucy Liu as the villainous daughters of Atlas. So yeah, I know that didn't really tell you a whole lot, but I'm looking forward to this, and I want to see a teaser next month when they do DC Fandom. And the shooting is commenced, and like I said, I really hope that they get on these films back to back really quickly, because it's getting difficult to keep these kids at reasonably young ages. One imagines now that, you know, they went from being whatever 14 to 17, that the next film, if they wait another 3 years, they're going to be full-blown adults, and some of the younger members of the cast might be able to get away with it, but I don't know how much longer they can handle that. But really looking forward to Shazam taking on Black Adam. Now, I want The Rock to get his butt into Shazam 3. I know that a lot of people are saying, oh, well, it's going to happen somewhere else. There might be something to do with Superman. Nobody really knows what's going to happen at this point. But I'm really pushing for The Rock to get Black Adam to rumble with Shazam. That really needs to happen. And especially, I think the Black Adam movie coming out, is it next year? That should set it up perfectly for a Shazam 3. So let me know what you think. Comment below. Let me know. And speaking of sequels that I'm looking forward to, again, not much to say about this. There really isn't a whole lot of news, I suppose, to share, but Ant-Man 3 in the works. They are just beginning to shoot now, apparently. Kevin Feige announced that Emma Furman would be replaced by Catherine Newton as Cassie Lang last year during Investors Day. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania has begun shooting for a few weeks now. Let's see. Catherine Newton has taken to Instagram to share a couple of photos. It looks like she's gotten into incredible superhero shape to play the soon-to-be Avenger. She captioned the photos saying, "Honestly, why I haven't been posting." Cassie is expected to play a pitiful. I hope it's not pitiful. I hope she has something good to do. Expected to play a pivotal role in Quantumania. There's a good chance she'll go on. She don't look pitiful in that picture, I'll tell you that. There's a good chance she'll go on to join a future incarnation of the Avengers as Stature. Again, I don't like these like young Avengers things. I know in the comics they did it all the time. They just kept putting teams together. The Defenders, the Young Avengers, the West Coast Avengers. I don't think you necessarily need all that, but anyway, what do I know? Let's see. Newton seemingly hinted that Lang will be suiting up at some point, saying, "All I can say is that I'm excited to be part of the Marvel Universe. It's a dream come true, and I'm going to do my best to be the best superhero of all time." Peyton Reed will step back behind the camera for the diminutive duo's next adventure, which will also feature the big screen debut of Loki's Jonathan Majors as the villainous Kang the Conqueror. Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer are set to return as Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne. Wombats Luis and Kurt, played by Michael Pena and David Del Masterson, respectively, will also be back as Scott Lang's Paul Rudd sidekicks. T.I., who plays Dave, is believed to have been dropped from the movie amid multiple allegations of assault against him and his wife. So yeah, I heard about that a while back. I guess T.I. is not going to be in it. I don't know how they're going to explain that, or it's going to be one of those things like they'll just bring some other guy in and say, "Well, this is T.I.'s, this is Dave's roommate or brother-in-law or something." I don't know. Evangeline Lilly recently hinted that Corey Stoll is also set to return in some capacity as Yellow Jacket, and that has since been confirmed. Now, I didn't hear this. They're bringing Yellow Jacket back. I guess I kind of thought that he sort of like crushed himself into like a little tiny speck of dust, but apparently maybe he is lost in the quantum realm and he could come back. Very interesting, intriguing notion, I guess. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is set to hit theaters February 17th, 2023. Ouch, that's far away. 2023? I can't even think of next year, let alone 2 years from now, but hey. It is extremely hot in this studio, and I have to keep frequently getting some water because it is very hot and dry in here. And if I put on the fan or an air conditioner, It's going to ruin the sound. So basically, I know I'm going to be in a sauna whenever I do one of these videos for an hour. All right, we will move along here. Let me know what you think. Are you excited about Ant-Man 3? I know I am. And hopefully we get more Ant-Man. That's what I think. I mean, I'm talking about going forward. I know the trilogy will be done, and they all kind of get a trilogy, and then they move on. The only one to break that so far is Thor, who is going on his 4th movie now, and possibly more. I don't know. From what I've heard, they kind of act like maybe Evangeline Lilly has kind of hinted that it's her last film. They could always carry on with Paul Rudd in an Avengers film or something, maybe, but I don't know. Kind of, disappointing if that's the case. I really love those 2 characters. All right, let us move on now to... This is the only kind of downer news that I've got to share. There is going to be a Rocketeer film in the near future. That is not a bad thing, but apparently it will have absolutely nothing to do with the hit film with Billy Campbell and Jennifer Connelly. I'm trying to remember, what was that, back like in the early 90s? I'm trying to read the copy. Let's see, 91, yeah. I haven't seen that film in so long. I got Disney Plus now, so I know I can see it, but I already had it on DVD, and I never find time to just put it in. I always say, oh yeah, and then I watch something else, because to be honest with you, I wasn't like overly impressed with it. I liked it as a kid, and it's not a bad movie by any means, but I don't know if it has the replayability. I mean, if you want 90s films, there are a lot of them that are like that. Dick Tracy, the Phantom, the Shadow. They had a lot of obscure characters because there was sort of a rush to try to get some superhero properties out that were not really necessarily well known. They weren't from the big 2, let's put it that way. And so there was sort of a rush to get all these, and they all were like of middling quality. A lot of us didn't really know the backgrounds of these characters either, so it was tough to know if they were being accurate or not. I think Dick Tracy was probably on the high end, and maybe the Phantom. The rest were like gradually going down. I love the look of the Rocketeer, though, I have to admit. That is one gorgeous costume, and I really loved it. The story was okay. Jennifer Connelly, of course, and the flower of maidenhood, was just a mind blower for kids back in the day, and I'm sure anyone who watches it now. But it was good. I'm not really, but I have to watch it again. I have to give it a proper viewing, which I probably haven't done in like 15 years. All right, so the scuttlebutt, the rumor going around was they were going to do another Rocketeer picture. They were going to do one with a black female lead. That sounds like that has changed as well. Let's see here. Let me read the copy. Disney's plans to reboot the Rocketeer go all the way back to 2016 when a sequel to Joe Johnston's original was announced with a black female lead taking over the Rocketeer mantle from Cliff Secord, played by Billy Campbell. That obviously never came to pass, and the idea was rejiggered several times over the years. Now a very different version of the project is reportedly in the works for Disney+. According to Deadline, the return of the Rocketeer is being developed for the streaming service with David and Jessica Oliolio. I probably butchered that name. I apologize. Set to produce it under their Yoruba Saxton banner. The former is also said to be circling the lead role, but it sounds like it's far from a done deal. The script, which was penned by Now You See Me and Jessica Jones writer Ed Ricourt, will focus on a retired Tuskegee airman who takes up the Rocketeer mantle. Johnson's 1991 film was an adaptation of Dave Stevens' graphic novel and focused on a young pilot who stumbles across a prototype jetpack that allows him to become a rocket-propelled hero. It was a modest hit, and despite not being particularly well received by critics at the time, it has since gone on to achieve cult status. Well, don't they all? I remember at the time, and I think I must have said this before when we did Rocketeer news, but I remember that it was, it was expected to be this great, ongoing series there were sequels. I remember Billy Campbell and Jennifer Connelly in an interview at the time saying that they were signed on for at least 3 films. So this was intended to be like an ongoing thing. It was going to be a big trilogy and this and that. It just went by the wayside because apparently not enough people went to see it. It wasn't a huge financial success, but I don't know. Like I said, this is kind of like, I don't know if it's going to be tied in any way to the original Rocketeer, but unless you have that mantle passing thing, it's just another guy with a rocket pack and he's wearing the clothes of somebody else. It's like, do we really need this film? I have to admit, I've always been a fan of the Tuskegee Airmen. Always loved that story. I remember seeing the, I don't know if it was a miniseries or was it a film. It's been a long time since I seen it, back when I was a teenager, and it was like, it had like a all-star cast. I mean, it had everybody. Cuba Gooding Jr., I think Denzel Washington, all of them were in it. And it was basically about the story of the Tuskegee Airmen. I always was really interested in that. So I kind of want them to do a story about that, but it's like you're basically taking the Rocketeer and you're, just make a new character. You know what I mean? I know George Lucas did a movie called Red Tails not too long ago, too. He produced it. I don't know if he directed it or whatever, but I didn't like that one as much. But again, that's a subject that's always interested me. But I think you kind of need to create a new character here, or unless, again, if you're going to make this the handoff, if you're going to hand off like a mantle passing or something, you kind of have to make it worth it. It's kind of hard to do a mantle passing to a character that had one movie like 40 years ago, whatever it was, 30 years ago. It's difficult. And I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know how this will fly. No pun intended. All right, so let me know what you think. Let me know in the comments below. Are you up for a Rocketeer reboot or it's called The Return of the Rocketeer? I guess it's going to be a soft reboot. I guess it's going to be maybe a mantle passing of some sort. I don't know, but let me know what you think in the comments below. Okay, so our final story here, our final story of the evening, and let me sit back for this one. I'm not sure if I can take it. I don't know.
I've never had pains like this before. Oh, this is the worst one I ever had, son. Oh, it's the worst one. This is a big one. I'm dying. You hear that, Elizabeth? I'm coming to join you, honey.
So yeah, apparently they are casting an actual honest-to-goodness redhead as Poison Ivy for season 3 of Batwoman, of all things. Now, I don't know. This might reek of desperation on their part, because Batwoman has become the butt of jokes, basically. It's basically there to be picked on and to be laughed at and to honestly be mocked, It's kind of sad because I think there are some redeeming factors in it. I like I said before, I do like the character of Alice, Rachel Skarsgård, and I think that a lot of the cast do their best. But the problem is it's just written from the woke ideology, from the first scratch of the pen on the script to the very last period at the dot at the end of the page. It is just that difficult to get through when it is that woke. I did a couple of videos. I really should do some more videos about that show to wrap up what happened at the end of last season. But quite honestly, it's a chore to get through. Now I'm going to be forced to watch it another season. Now, I probably would have watched it anyway because, like I said, Rachel Skarsgård, really, really good, really talented actress. I really like her. But fortunately, I like this actress even more. Now, you're going to remember her. This is Bridget Regan, by the way. She's a natural redhead, I believe, from what I understand. I think most of us remember her from Agent Carter. You're going to remember her as Dottie. I don't remember what's her last name, but in the short-lived Agent Carter series, a series that I thought should have gone on for a couple more seasons. But in the Agent Carter series, she was the sort of the Red Room, Black Widow prototype of, what was it, the 50s, I guess, or was it the late 40s? And she was like a dangerous assassin. She was sort of like a frenemy by the end. And, you know, she was a great character. And I really loved Bridget Regan as an actress for a long time, though. I remember watching her probably like 10 years ago in Legend of the Seeker. If you really want to see her in action, you should check that show out, because it's not a great show, to be totally honest with you. I think there are only 2 seasons of it. First season's not that bad. She plays some kind of a, I don't know if it's a witch or some kind of a magical creature or whatever, but it's based on some kind of book series. And what's that guy's name from the Mad Max movies? He was in it. He's the guy. Was it Bruce Spence? Something like that. Again, you probably remember him as the guy from Revenge of the Sith. You know, they're watching us. 10th level. Hundreds of battle droids. You know, that guy. He plays like the wizard of the show or whatever. But anyhow, then they did a second season where it got very dark. It got very dark. You know, they added like a female character that was like a villain turncoat that turned good or something. And it was one of those things. There's a few shows that I watch that I kind of feel like, it's kind of weird. I kind of feel like I regret watching them because they never lived up to their potential. I always said The Pretender is one of them. The 90s show with Michael T. Weiss. I thought it was a great show, but the problem is it never got any better. It kind of like, it got stuck at a level of mediocrity. And it just never got better. It never took off. And it's the same thing I felt with Legend of the Seeker. They kind of got stuck at a certain level that I felt like, yeah, you could kind of go on and do something really good with this premise. And then it kind of got stuck and just did not go anywhere. It just kind of like laid there and flailed and didn't stick the landing, so to speak. The thing about Legend of the Seeker, it has one of the greatest villain names of all time. I always love this name of this character, Darken Rawl. That's a name for a villain. You gotta give them credit for that. But anyway, yeah, Bridget Regan, what are you going to do about this, Hollywood? You're actually casting a redhead for a redheaded role. And of course, Poison Ivy is one of the greats. And I would argue we really haven't seen her properly in live action. Now, I know, what's her name? Peyton Royce, I believe. No, Peyton List, right? I think I got it on the copy here. Let me see. Yeah, Peyton List played her on Gotham. And she was pretty good. Again, the character of Poison Ivy on Gotham was completely mismanaged. They originally had her as the same age as Bruce, at about 12 years old. And then they aged her up physically, though not mentally, to Peyton List. It was a very, very weird thing they were trying to do with that character, and it just really, really messed up that whole thing. But then again, Gotham was kind of a disaster on wheels. I think, honestly, I watched it only because it was a train wreck. I know others are bigger fans of it, or whatever. And of course, there was Uma Thurman, who played Poison Ivy in Batman and Robin. Of course, I've gone on record as saying as I don't hate Batman and Robin. I take it in the spirit in which it was made, which is 60s Batman on crack. Poorly cut crack. But taking it for what it was, as sort of a send-up, a satire, it's not bad. But again, I don't really feel... They kind of... I don't know. It kind of went like off the rails on Batman and Robin. It's a very bad example of any of the characters involved, really, So this might be our first chance to actually see Poison Ivy involved. Now, I don't know, is this going to be the green skin Poison Ivy and they're going to do all that crazy stuff that they've done in the comics recently? I hope not. I'd rather just have her look like this. What excites me more about this, I hope that they will finally bring in a Batman show after Batwoman is over. And I think, honestly, that's a possibility from what we've seen with, it's difficult because with Superman, for some reason, I think they're planning on keeping Superman off the big screen for a while. So if you notice, with Supergirl ending, they're allowing Supergirl in the Flash movie. They're taking Constantine off of Legends of Tomorrow because they're trying to do a Constantine show. So this might not bode well for Batman, seeing as how we're going to have a Batman movie coming up. But honestly, if they could just do what they're doing with Supergirl, phase out Supergirl, bring in Superman, Lois, bring in a Batman TV show of some kind, and then we could see the proper Batman versus Poison Ivy. That would be great. I have no illusions that's going to happen, but as some of you might have recalled, I have been a strong proponent of Bridget Regan playing the Arrowverse version of Wonder Woman. So I honestly think that if I had a choice, I would have chosen her to play Wonder Woman. But again, I just think she's a fantastic actress. I would love to see her in anything and everything possible. So I am very happy that she got cast in this. As I said, I hope this, if she's popular enough, she can survive this, spin off into something else, hopefully a Batman TV show. We'll have to wait and see. My only concern, of course, because this show is so woke, that they will try and do, and I'm sure this is what they are going to try and do. They're going to try to make her a lesbian, and she's going to fall in love with Alice, because Alice is sort of the Arrowverse version of Harley Quinn, and they're going to rewrite a whole new chapter that's going to have them be lesbians just because. Now, they kind of sidestepped that with Alice being in love with Ocean this past season, and what's her name? Sapphira, I guess, the Amazon queen or whatever she is, being in love with Alice, and Alice sort of not really taking any of her advances seriously. But I think, with these woke shows and everything, they approach every single character as if they're bi, and they just don't know it yet. So I wouldn't be completely and totally surprised if that's the direction they go. That, unfortunately, is something that I'm not looking forward to. I'm not in favor of, but we'll see. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you excited for Batwoman Season 3? Are you looking forward to Bridget Regan taking on the mantle of Poison Ivy in the Batwoman series and hopefully doing justice to her in that show? I think, very honestly, if anyone was to play her character, you can see it also, like I said, in some of her previous work, like Legend of the Secret. I think she'd be able to play that sort of femme fatale very well. All right, so that's about all I have for you this lovely Saturday afternoon. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you leave a comment below. I haven't really culled a bunch of comments that I got. I really should do that, but it's the end of the show. I'll let you go. But next time we'll do some comments from the audience. We'll do a mailbag segment. I really owe you guys a mailbag segment because I've got like 5 or 6 comments that I haven't even read on the air. And I always say I read all the comments. Most of them are about the, like I said, Legend of the Lone Ranger has been a popular video lately. Of course, Phantom of the Opera is one of my most popular videos. The Wonder Woman retrospective. I'm going to try to do some more videos. Like I said, I'm in the middle of watching The Falcon and the Winter Soldier now, so I'm going to attempt to put that as another short form review video, the way I did The Mandalorian, the way I did WandaVision. Of course, it's coming out a little after the fact. I'm not sure, if I'm going to get that many views when I wait like 6 months practically for something like the WandaVision. But I'm going to try to do some more of those short-form videos. And as I said, check back for the Shang-Chi review. That's going to be on Wednesday. So, until next we meet, this is Johnnie Torch reminding you once again, keep the flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.